And it's more a network, the business school, than somewhere you really learn real life, teach you much more than school. I was attracted by money at the beginning and I wanted to make lots of money. We wanted to create a community-driven company committed to the environment. We had no risk except to lose 30,000, which is the price of a car. A mentor is probably 25% of the success of picture for us. It's we respect to fail.
Welcome to Sports and Outdoor Mentors. In this episode, I chat with Julien Durant, the co-founder and CEO of Picture Organic Clothing. Picture was founded 15 years ago in Annecy, France by three friends, Julien, Jeremy and Vincent. Today, it employs more than 90 people, is sold in more than 40 countries around the world, and generated 50 million euros of sales in 2022. We chat about the challenges and opportunities of leading a purpose-driven business, the value of a mentor, and their approach to failure, plus much, much more. Before we get into it though, I have one favor to ask. Please hit the subscribe button. This really helps us grow the channel so we can continue to elevate the content and bring you insights from more amazing leaders within the sports and outdoor industry. Thanks for your support, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Julien, so if you think back 18 to 20 years ago when you were in business school, did you imagine that you would be sitting here today leading a brand like Picture back in those days?
So I was imagining myself leading a company because I always been an entrepreneur, and that has always been my dream to start my own business. I don't really to, let's say, be managed by somebody, and I've always been leading projects. So part of the way I was thinking my life was working on my leadership. I didn't imagine that the success of our company would come so fast, and managing people would come so fast too, and you're never ready to manage people. And I think that's the toughest part of our entrepreneurship life. And leading a company and starting a business, I would say, is perhaps just 10% of the success, and 90% is people and managing people. And when you are at the business school, nobody tell you that, and you really learn on the field, and you don't really learn at school.
Yeah. And so that's a really interesting point. And I completely agree. I think that's the biggest part of any leadership role is leading the team, leading people. But when you look back at business school, are there things that you learned there that you have been able to put into action that you think, okay, yeah, that maybe not that lesson was valuable, but generally anything that you think, okay, yeah, that was valuable time for me?
I would say that the value of your business school comes mainly on the name of your business school, because it opens doors to start your first internship, to create your first connection in business life. And then it opens doors to start your own business or to be hired by a company, and it's more a network, the business school, than somewhere you really learn lots of things. Yeah. So you create connection with people, you create projects, but all the projects you do with associations teach me much more than the teachers themselves. And I did my 2 last year of business school part-time with Coca-Cola. So part-time at school, part-time with the company. And what I learned from business and the basis I've established to start Picture come from my background at Coca-Cola and then Origin Schweppes. And I would say that real life teach you much more than school.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you mentioned there your time at Coke and Schweppes and Orangina. So I think if somebody didn't know you and didn't know that, they might be surprised to hear that that's where you started. So why did you start there? What was the kind of thought process that you had at the time?
I was looking for a purpose. I think like most of the people, But that was a big motivation for me to involve myself into something which gave me sense. And what we call the per capita is how many liter habitant from a country drinks every year was, let's say, the main goal to achieve. And it didn't really resonate for me. And I was attracted by money at the beginning, and I wanted to make lots of money. And when I started, I did money, and I didn't find myself very happy. And I was spending all that money going back and forth to the mountain to join my childhood friends, to go snowboarding, skiing, skateboarding. And at the end, I was making more money, but it was spent in transport. So when I called Jeremy to ask him if he were ready to start the brand we thought about for many years, and Jeremy answered me quickly that he was an architect. If he were leaving his family business, it would have been just to create something completely different and new, fully committed into sustainability by making everything we do in a sustainable way. And if it's not possible to do it that way, we don't do it. And that's the baseline. Jeremy, I say, highlighted me like an elevator presentation on the project, and quickly said, I'm in, because there was that vision of making it different and new. And the connection I have with Jeremy has been the main power of Picture.
Okay.
Vincent has joined us in a second time because he was really specialized in supply chain and IT. And he was part of the skills which was required, but Jeremy was the vision. And as soon as he gave me that vision, it has changed my mind. And I projected myself into the company by bringing something new into the market. Because Jeremy, as an architect, is redesigning the products with a different approach than classic fashion designer. So we came in the market with a new design, that new philosophy, which didn't exist at that time, and a new way of thinking, because we were already thinking inclusivity. And it's not inclusivity, men, women. It was, first of all, inclusivity in sports, in outdoors. We didn't want to create a ski company or a snowboard company or a hiking company. We wanted to create a community-driven company committed to the environment. And that's really how those three pillars made us different at that time.
Yeah.
And pushed us to put all our energy in the project.
But the timing is really interesting, because when we look back now to 2008, it was the kind of the height of the second largest kind of global economic crisis. So that was a pretty brave decision, though, at the time. Because I think you all invested, I think, 30,000 euros or something at the start. And
it was most of our economy for 3 years working experience.
Yeah.
And so we spent all that money, but we didn't have kids, houses, loan. So we had no risk except to lose 30,000, which is the price of a car. So we would have lost one car. And the risk was very limited. And in 2008, even if it was a global crisis, as a citizen, the media, the newspaper talk about crisis, but yourself, you don't really realize, because you work, you make your money, you buy your bread, your butter, and you eat. So for us, it was just a starting point of a project. And facing that crisis was quite a big strain for us, because while the crisis is at its highest point, people are looking for newness and solutions to let's say, reinvent themselves. And we were part of the solutions they picked, and they said, oh, there is a new brand with those kind of new feelings, new philosophy, new way of thinking. Let's try something new. So the crisis was a strength for us and not really a weakness. When we started the project, we met people which help us to jump 3-4 steps in one jump, like George Pessé from Jonathan and Fletcher. It's an innovative and pattern-making company dedicated for outerwear garment. And George introduced me to all the right suppliers, the right fabric suppliers, the connections went very fast. We had a very high-end product at our first production without any customer issue, which usually happen when you are a new brand. We met people like Jérôme Elbaz, who was a French manager for North Face. He has a background on global sales for Billabong and some other companies, Salomon too, and he helped me to build the price strategy, to have a global price strategy, and to make sure that, because the trend online was going very fast, but 2008 was the beginning, companies with global price didn't really exist, but he pushed me to start the company with a global pricing and not with a country pricing, which has really helped for the future of the business and the company. So most of the people we met, also thanks to Outdoor Sports Valley, which is outdoor associations near Annecy. So it's an association with 400 members from different companies from the outdoors, and that connection has also helped. They have what they call incubators, and we were part of that incubators to get some advice, free advice, because you don't have money and people do it because they want to do it, from very skilled people. And that's really how we have been able to pass the 3 years very fast and to become profitable after year 2, which usually takes 3 to 5 years. So yeah, the start was easier than 2013. In 2013, we started to hire people.
Okay.
And from a startup, we became a company with employees. And we have discovered what employees are looking for, what they are not looking for, how they commit to the company, and how they commit just to themselves. And you need a purpose, you need to give sense. And as far as we had more than 15 employees, everything has changed. From 0 to 15, we were all friends. We were hanging out together, doing sports together. And at 15, there was a layer between people and there was managers. And we started to have some political actions from people. We started to have to deal with people who want to increase their salaries, their skills, their power. And it's easy to manage compromise when everybody is at the bottom line of salaries, for example.
Yeah.
And they are looking for more in their life, which is totally normal.
Yeah.
And but we didn't think it would come so fast.
Yeah. But going back to your other founders, so the three of you already talked about, Vincent and Jeremy. You have very complementary skills and backgrounds. Was that always a goal? Was it kind of always in your mind to work together, at least with you and Jeremy? I know you said you brought in Vincent later, or was it a happy coincidence that it worked out like that?
When I called Jeremy, I've known forever his skills in creativity, in the way that his vision has always been very interesting, even in our group of friends. He was a kind of trendsetter in terms of trend for the brand he was wearing, the board brand he started to use when nobody was knowing the brands. In terms of music, he loves music, so he was always picking the new band. And so I trusted Jeremy a lot, and his visual and the quality of his hard skills was for me something I don't have, and I needed to start a project. So I didn't want to be associated with somebody like me. So he was the one to start something or not to do anything. And Vincent was a friend of the group, and he was into the project since the beginning. But in terms of skills, I would say that he took over IT because that's his skills, but operation was not his skills. And because I was taking over marketing, sales, and production, and I was the only one speaking English. So, by the way, I was the only one able to take over those departments. Vincent took the rest and had to learn on the field because he had no skills in the operations. And he learned from a mentor who is a 12% shareholder in the company called Claude Demota. He's partnering Vincent's father, who is also 12% shareholder. And he was the CEO of André Chaussure. He was a finance manager from a company. He got 100 employees, sold the company to KPMG. So he was a big entrepreneur, and he is very good at finance and operations. And he mentored Vincent. Sometimes it has been very hard because he's not laughing a lot. He's very straight to the point, very hard with the words he's using. But Vincent, for the first 5 years, learned a lot from him. It was much better than a business school. And then Vincent fly himself to run all those categories and those departments. And then we have structured the company all together. And those complementary skills is perhaps the best strength we have all together. Usually when I'm listening to some advisors, they always say, company with 3 owners always bankrupt, or 2 owners are kicking out the other one, and there is always conflict. For us, because we depend on each other and nobody is doing the job of the other one, we have to work together. So sometimes there is some tension because when operations are not as smooth as expected and the customers complain, we fight together because we need to supply the consumer the best way. But at the end, we all work for the consumer. So we have the same goal. And also in terms of vision in our entrepreneurship, we didn't do picture to be rich. We did picture to work from our passion, which was snowboarding, skateboarding, and surfing.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. No, but it's worked out really well. And it's what you said about Vincent's mentor and, that being better than any business school. I will maybe come back to that a little bit later with regards to you because, I think their mentors are somehow undervalued and not, let's say, utilized enough, I would say. But that's really, really interesting.
And as you said, a mentor is probably 25% of the success of picture for us, because we being very open-minded and open to listen to people with experience has helped us to move forward faster, has helped us to take the right decisions. Even sometimes when there is a key decision to take, we call some partners and even some competitors sometimes. And when you talk about Romain Millet, you met him yesterday. We had some question with China. He has lived for 20 years in China. We had a meal together. He gave us 3-4 advice about China we didn't know. And from his advice, I think we took the right decisions to start to launch picture into that market. And even if we are competitors, we are all good friends in that industry, which is very positive. And this is probably why we all love to work in that industry. There is not like animals who want to bite each other.
Right.
And at the end, we want to grow the cake of the outdoor industry and to find our spot in it. But we all compete in the same direction. So that's something also very positive.
You mentioned earlier on that you, between the three of you, the 3 co-founders, you all have equal ownership stakes. And you said that, because of your different skill sets and experience, it enables you to address problems and challenges in a different way. But I there must have been times, where you all disagreed, or maybe not. But I would imagine there have been some times. And how do you address that? Because also you're friends as well, so it could be quite difficult.
I would say that our friendship has degraded with the company, and now for 15 years we all have started our family. We all have kids, so we have a vision of life which is different from each other, and also because our family for all of us are our priority, we change a little bit directions, and we don't spend all our time going back and forth to the mountain and chilling on the slope.
Yeah.
So visions of life have changed, and it has helped us to create some key moments to share all positive and bad vibes to make sure that, let's say, quarterly, we don't leave stuff to degrade and to pollute the company.
Yeah.
So we have always been very, we have open mouth.
Yeah.
And we really talk a lot to each other.
Yeah.
Then how we deal with some situation where we don't agree, it's mainly based on compromise. And when I say compromise, it means that we don't take a decision as far as everybody don't agree with the decision, because we have to hold the decision and to transmit the decision to all the people in the company.
Yeah.
And the biggest weakness of that model is when we miss our quarterly meeting, we miss some informations, and then we are running the company like 3 different identities. The part which is managed by Vincent will have different information from the one I manage, from the one Jeremy is managing. So we know that we have to meet, and sometimes we forgot or we do not have time, and we really feel that the employee are very, how do we say? The basis of the company became unstable as far as we don't share the same level of information.
Yeah.
We have to speak with one only voice, and even if there is 3 mouths, it have to be one voice. And we have learned that all our decisions have to be taken together, and then we have to talk to people, and we don't have to show to the staff our doubts, our thinkings. And as soon as we have done that in the past, it has created freakness.
Yeah. Okay, that makes complete sense. So those quarterly meetings are pretty vital then for the stability of the business.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But even if we know that, sometimes we miss those. So because we are all traveling, we have our daily issue to deal with. And as an entrepreneur, let's say the hardest part to manage is trying to think out of the box and not trying to deal with the problem we have now. And it's always grateful for an entrepreneur to find solutions for your employee. He has a problem, you find the solution, and it gives you a direct feedback, direct compliment.
Yeah.
But at the end, you are always dealing with what's happened for tomorrow, but never dealing with what will happen in 1 year or 2 years. And it's very important to step back, and to step back all together, not one of us or 2 of us, to make sure that we transmit the same vision.
Yeah.
And this is what we don't do very well, and we know we have to work on it.
Yeah.
And even if you know, sometimes you don't do.
You mentioned earlier on the OSV, so Outdoor Sports Valet. And obviously you're here with your co-founders leading this business on a daily basis, but I know you also participate actively within OSV as well. So why? I mean, why do you do that? Why do you give up your time for that? And what does it bring to you?
OSV gave us a lot. And now, after 10 years, we were profitable. We have started and we are running a nice company. And there is some new entrepreneur like us 10 years after who wants to live what we have lived. And I think it's time also for us to give back. And if we can give back and help, we grow the cake of the outdoor all together. And it's all, I think, and that's our values, if somebody gives you, you will give back one time. Even if it's not tomorrow, you will give back.
Yeah.
And being part of OSV is a way to give back. And it's also a way to meet people from the industry, to keep connected to your competitors, which could be your partner. And it's always nice to share some like big datas, some informations about customers. But I didn't do it just for business connections. It's perhaps 20% of my motivation. 80% is the give back, because you give lots of hours for entrepreneurship, for there is some services. So
Yeah.
I'm part of the sustainability department.
Yeah.
And we try also to give all our knowledge, to give informations, to push brands to be part of it, and to understand what are the challenges, which challenges are the one we can deal all together. We are also part of EOG. One example, which is very simple. We talk about energy transition to fight climate change, which means that we have to wipe out fossil fuel from most of our use. And energy transition can't be done with some big yarn factory, for example, alone, because picture itself represents perhaps 0.2% of the business of that company. But if all the outdoor industry could focus on one goal, manage the energy transition of our Taiwanese supplier for yarn, 90% of us use the same yarn from the same company. If we push him to change and we finance a little bit based on the volume we represent in that company, we could accelerate the changes. And you just need a chef d'orchestre.
Yeah.
And the chef d'orchestre is EOG.
Yeah.
And thanks to them, we are able to lead that project we would never have led alone.
As a leader of a company like Picture, which is what, around 100 employees now?
Yeah, 90.
90. What do you consider to be your most important task as the leader of that business?
Transparency.
Okay.
And we play against the big players, but we are a small player. And what made Picture very unique is the fact that we are like a family. Because 90 compared to 1,000, if we compare to our neighbor Salomon, the company culture is completely different. And what we have, and most of those big companies doesn't, is transparency. So I was talking about communication before, but it's also how we communicate transparently on every topics without any taboo.
Yeah.
And what people really appreciate is the fact that we don't hide anything, even with journalists, and that's a company mindset.
Yeah.
Don't hide anything, tell everybody, and if you are not proud of what you've done, don't do it. And we assume we really assume what we do. So if we do it, there is a reason. If we do a mistake, we assume it's a mistake, and we have to accept it. And we have some big values in the company, which also help for that. It's we respect to fail. And failing is a way to improve, is a way to succeed later, is a way to learn. So we push people not to fail all the time, of course, but to accept to fail.
Yeah.
But what I don't respect is people who don't try and don't take risk. Because if they don't take risk, they just have to manage some daily task, but I don't want to give them any responsibility.
Sure. Yeah.
And if by taking risk, it's a mistake, let's understand why, and let's not do it later, and let's try to find some solution, and let's learn from it.
Yeah. Well, interesting. Maybe a little bit on the same theme. Is there something that you know now that you wish you would have known 15 years ago when you started?
To be honest, from my education and from my sports background, I was a rugby player for 15 years, playing for Clermont.
Okay.
When you play rugby, you try. Sometimes a big tackle comes, you fall, you get hurt, but the whole team is behind you. The whole team will take back the ball, and you will play again and try again. And sometimes you pass, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you put a try, sometimes you give the try to your partner. And it's a nice image to transfer to company, because trying is a way to go to the success. And if you don't try, people will run over you and you will not do anything.
Yeah.
So I think my rugby background has really helped, and my parents, which are two teachers, one economic teacher. My mother is a teacher at elementary school, and in terms of educations, they have always pushed their students to try and to fail and to learn. So it's part of my background, and I think that's something I try to transmit because it builds you stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. But as an Englishman talking to a Frenchman, I would rather not talk about rugby at the moment. So let's maybe move on from that. So something a little bit different. What's your relationship like with technology? How do you use a lot of technology day to day, either for professionally or personally?
So personally, I'm a gear geek.
Okay.
It's totally not in line with the brand value when you talk about sobriety and everything. But I love technologies. But compared to Jeremy, my partner, he hates technologies. He likes simple things. So in a daily way of management and way of life, it's a question of compromise. I'm trying to push the team to use better the IA, because now there is no limits with IA. It's very cheap, so you don't have to pay a lot today, and there is lots of value to save time. So I'm trying to push our staff to use it more, to learn about it, and we have to be pioneer using the IA today. Because as a startup, it will help to accelerate lots of processes. Then, if when we talk technologies, we talk about thinking on how we can implement technologies in our garments. That's something we are totally far from, because when you talk about sobriety, and I really respect Jeremy's vision with it, technologies can't really be recycled. It breaks easily. It doesn't long last. You have to deal with lots of warranty and everything. So this is not where we aim to stand. So when we talk about technologies, it's more technologies around sustainability. So we are working on two huge projects. One about circularity and how we can use fibers made from recycled garments, and how we can make our garments recyclable to make sure that we don't create virgin fibers to produce garment, but we use a kind of closed circle of raw material to reproduce some newness.
Yeah.
And also, we have another project with Carbios. Carbios is it's not a small startup, because they really accelerated with more than $200 million fund leverage.
Okay.
That company found a way with enzyme to degrade polyester fibers into polyethylene on one side and PTA on the other side, to come back to the virgin fiber, to the virgin component. So that's something we are onboarding with. So we are onboarding with the project. We are not part of the leading team, where brands like Patagonia, L'Oreal, Pepsi Cola are really involved into. But we are some small members, but we are part of it. So when we talk innovations, we really focus on sustainability behind innovations, and but not on technologies to have a heater on your jacket. Or
when you think about the industry as a whole, what do you think are the biggest challenges it's going to face over the next 3 to 5 years, and maybe even longer?
So we all know, when we talk about sobriety, we have anyway to produce less. We produce too much compared to what the consumer can buy. And the challenge from every shareholder is to get some new market shares, make more profits, so produce more, create more waste. So we have to find some alternatives to be more regenerative, which means that the question is, how we make sure that we keep our business sustainable by producing less, better, with more durability. At Picture, we thought about different approach, like leasing clothing, like renting, like if you can sell some usage instead of sell some products, it can be interesting. 10 people could be users for rent pants for bikepacking, because you don't bikepack every weekend. You go bikepacking for 1 week a year, so you don't need the full set. So perhaps we could rent a set, and it could supply 10 people. So we make the same amount of money, but we produce one outfit instead of 10.
Yeah.
So that's a way to go to sovereignty. So that's just one way, but we have to explore some solution to keep profitable company, but to produce less and better. Our industry is not the worst. If you look at what's happening in the fast fashion side, this is where we all have to fight against. If you look at the growth of Shine, the Chinese company, in 20 years, they grow from zero to more than $10 billion. Patagonia, in 40 years, grow from 0 to 1 billion. And Patagonia has lived an organic growth for 40 years, while Shine has accelerated through shitty products, which doesn't long last, which have a lifetime of 1 month. And they are just making money. They are just thinking about the future of our planet, and they have so good communication that they create needs all the time. So we're working, for example, with En Mode Climat. So En Mode Climat is an association. We try to do some lobby at the European Union and French minister to push some new law to regulate the production of textile, to regulate some tax for products which doesn't long last. For example, we push on have a fee for every product you sell on the market which you can't repair. And if the brand offer a reparation or lifetime reparation options, you don't pay the tax. So the only way to reach solutions is to attack the wallet.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you don't attack the wallet of those big fast fashion company, you don't really create solutions.
Yeah. And sorry, say, what was the name of the organization that you're doing that with?
En Mode Climat.
Okay. And they work with, I guess, several different companies.
We are 500 members.
Okay.
All textile brands.
Okay.
Most of them are French brands.
Okay.
And we have some partners and some other associations in different countries. And all together, we are financing some jobs.
Yeah.
Some lobbyists.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do lobbying.
Yeah.
And it's impressive how those big companies can penetrate the ministers, can penetrate the European Union decision maker organization.
Yeah.
And they know who to talk to. And if you want to change things, you have to change it politically and economically.
Yeah.
Politically with the law, and economically by making the consumer understand what he should do and should not do.
Yeah.
Because at the end, the consumer has the power.
Yeah.
If there is no consumer, there is no consumption.
Absolutely. That's interesting. Well, I'll make sure I put the link to their website in the show notes, because I think that's I've not heard of that before. I think that's really interesting.
It has been created by Julia. She's the owner of Loom.
Okay.
Loom is a very sustainable French brand, and she has embraced a network. So at the beginning, we were only 40. Now it's 500 brands in 4 years, and all committed to regulate. And Millet is now joining the fight.
Great. Thinking about launching a brand with sustainability and even kind of a regenerative approach to business, you know, And I understand, obviously, Jeremy was a key driving force behind that decision. But of course, that's not the easiest way to start a business. And it gives you, I'm sure, lots of challenges from a cost point of view of materials, of productions, etc. Do you feel you're yet able to kind of mitigate those higher costs? Or do you think that it...
So we've known since the beginning that it will be challenging, especially with the cost. So our vision was to produce the garment at a higher cost, not to spend money into marketing, keep the marketing budget as the additional cost of producing organically, and dealing with the consumer to show him that the marketing value is into the product and not into the marketing. So we wanted to create that kind of break-even where there is no marketing and every add value is into the product. It's been working very well till 2013 because at that time, Facebook was free. It was just the beginning of Instagram. So to create community and to reach our consumer, we had some easy tool to talk to our consumer.
Yeah.
And then those social media became
Good to pay for it.
became payful, yes.
Yeah.
And we had to start to pay to reach our target, to reach our consumer, to reach our communities, and to reach wider communities too. And then our model have had to change. So for 5 years, we have lose margin every year, but our growth was so high, more than 100% every year. We were balancing the lack of margin
Sure.
with the growth.
Yeah.
And while COVID came, the growth stopped.
Yeah.
And then we had to reinvent ourselves in terms of business model and to reduce some cost in some part, to accelerate some new development in the other side. And for example, moving from recycling to biosource has increased the price. So we moved from recycled polyester to biosource polyester in 2018.
Okay.
And we were looking for some circular polyester, and the process of circularity is 30% cheaper than biosource. So we pushed hard to go faster on those projects, to rebalance the margin. So we have really accelerated some leverage to reach a better margin. And also, after COVID, the inflation has, let's say, reorganized the map of where to produce.
Okay.
For example, Turkey with cotton is becoming so expensive compared to 5 years ago, and they have inflation of 40-50% per year. It was 90% of our cotton production. We had to move to India and to Mauritius Island to find some reasonable price to continue to manage our lifestyle business. Because in Turkey, it was not even possible to sell a product with a margin. And that reorganization has also helped us to reset some new facilities, to reorganize some, let's say, products construction, to make sure that we can continue to sell at the right price with the right margin. And it took 3 years to reorganize after COVID our it's not supply chain, our buying chain.
Yeah.
And now we have a model which is sustainable again.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah. It's I understood that you weren't investing in brand marketing, let's say, at the start, and that you were kind of focused more on training the sales associates, etc. But that's interesting. I didn't know from a business model point of view. That's really interesting. And yeah, those last few years must have been very challenging.
And what was key when we launched the brand, we wanted to sell products of organic product at the price of non-organic product. Because at that time, from a survey we did ourselves, so we didn't pay for anything. We were in Les Deux Alpes.
Yeah.
In summer, we were doing summer camp every summer. And we did some questionnaire to people on the chairlift, on the gondola, and we asked them, those organic products are important for you? Yes, of course.
Will you pay?
Would you pay more for it for clothing? Not at all. Not even 1% more. Because for them, it was more fashion aspect of the product than a commitment. And this is why from that constat, we said, okay, 98% of people don't want to pay even 1% more. So we have to sell organic product at the price of non-organic product. So let's save money on marketing. We don't do marketing. We focus on social media. And after COVID, what has happened from our previous discussion, lots and lots of private label and new brands launched themselves during COVID on Instagram. So Instagram became also a battlefield to launch new brands on every territories, every categories, and it's becoming even more competitive. So we had to reinvent ourselves to recreate margin for picture, but also to recreate ourselves on social media to make sure that our voice is not lost into the voice of all those newcomers.
One thing I wanted to ask you, one bit of advice maybe for some of our audience or listeners, and I'm sure there are lots of employees of other brands that those brands are maybe not either as sustainably minded or sustainably minded at all. And I'm sure a lot of employees are frustrated by that and wish they could help influence the company to be more sustainable. If you were to give advice to those people about how they could maybe address that with their managers, their stakeholders, even the owners, what advice would you give?
First of all, the project have to be led by one person. So we call him the sustainability manager at Picture, but you can give every name you want. That person have to be part of the direction, not the marketing.
Yeah, so the man.
And in most of the brand, that person is part of the marketing. It kills the strategy. So he has to be, or she has to be, the right arm of the CEO. And the CEO has to embrace the project himself. Because if he's not convinced, nothing will happen in the company because it's always a question of P&L. And if into the P&L he include a line for it, the company will have to deal with it and you will start to transform some behavior, some habits into the company. But it starts from the top and it goes to the bottom, even if the bottom is very demanding. And my main advice is that the sustainability manager must be part of the direction. And around the table, when we take the big decision of the company, we have human resources, finance, operations, sales, human resources, and sustainability. And it's part, we called that before the big five. Now it's the big six because that position is key. And the decisions you take with finance, sales, and everything have to include a part of sustainable vision behind. Otherwise, you always go to your comfort zone, and it's always easier to do as usual and not to change.
Yeah. But if there was a situation where the CEO didn't believe in the approach, for example, let's say if I said to you, okay, I want you to convince a CEO, a member of OSV, for example, let's say, what would be your, let's say, main argument to try and convince another CEO to have a more sustainable approach?
It depends on where he challenges himself. If his goal in life is just to make money, I will never convince him because he's focused on making money. But if he wants to use his company as a way to make money, of course, it's capitalism, but you want to have a positive impact on people, and you think that your company has a value for people and is not only a business money maker, then you can start to convince him because thinking sustainability, it's not only the product. The product is 1% of a sustainable vision behind a company. It's also how people feel good, the equity between genders, the equity between the old generation and the younger generation. It's when we were talking earlier about happiness, working life and family life, and the balance with that, which is key, is something which is part of sustainable vision behind. So it's also about human, and to motivate him to move forward. The value of the company is made by people. It's not being made by yourselves. Being more than 15 employees, then I realized that I was not able to run the company alone anymore. And if I wanted to reach the step I expected to reach, my only solutions is to convince people to go there, and is to push people to come with me and to be the captain of the boat and get some new passenger on the road. And to attract new passengers, people happiness, is part of that sustainable vision. So B Corp has really helped us to think out of the box of the product only. Because with Jeremy, we were really product focused when we launched the company, and with Vincent too. And being B Corp certified in 2019 has changed the vision of sustainability for us. And it gave us some pillars and some guidelines to move forward on different topics at the same time.
Yeah.
And each employee have a responsibility then to implement and to bring his brick to the house to make sure that tomorrow is always better than yesterday.
Yeah. We're running out of time, but I really wanted to talk a little bit about B Corp, but we don't have time, and so maybe one day you'll allow me to come back. So let's just close up on a few quick questions and lighter questions. So, what's your favorite piece of sports or outdoor gear? But it can't be something from Picture, okay? Because that's too easy.
My favorite piece, at least my garage is full of toys.
Okay.
Full of toys. So mountain bikes, road bike, snowboard, ski, kite surf. I think there is more value in my garage than in my house.
I'm not sure it's good that your wife hears this.
But today my best sports gear, I would say my mountain bike.
Okay.
Because I'm using it all year round, and that's what I'm using the most. And I think for my my self-confidence, for my trainings, for everything, I'm using my mountain bike.
Yeah.
And when I want to think out of the box, usually I go for a 3-hour ride. It's so painful that I can just think on my efforts and some topics around the job, and I don't have too many feelings, too many emotions coming in, and it really helps me to feel better. And
okay, yeah, I can imagine. Good for the body and the mind, I'm sure. And what one book would you encourage people to read if they're working in the sports and the outdoor industry? Is there one book that kind of inspires you or taught you something? Or
to be honest, I'm just a comics reader. And I have more than 1,000 comics at my home, so I'm a big fan of comics.
In your garage?
No,
they're in the house.
I have it in house now.
Okay.
And my favorite book is Lord of the Ring for one reason, because it's about how somebody is focused on reaching his goal, whatever can happen. And the trip of Frodon Sake during the 3 books is a real adventure in one side, some human meetings, human connection in the other side, and there is a big achievement at the end because he never gives up. And the way the book is wrote and the way the adventure is organized, really make me feel about life in general, about running a company. And he's so true to himself. He has self-confidence, but he's not cocky. And he's really open to be helped, and he has lots of determinations, and I really feel that that hero is the kind of entrepreneur I want to look like.
I'm sure I'm never going to get that answer again with that question, but that's a great answer. The real psychologically behind that. That's great. So if today was the last day of your career, what would you say to your team?
Let's go riding.
Perfect. Okay, great. And if you could give future leaders in the sports and outdoor industry 3 pieces of advice, what would they be?
I would say being very transparent on the goal of the company and the goal of themselves in the company, so that there is no people who won't follow, or we will have some like disappointment at one stage. So that kind of transparency on what's happening, but also on where it's going. So that's the first advice. Don't feel guilty talking about money. If people are jealous, you don't care. Let them be jealous. But you will be through to also the role of a company. It's to make money, to feed some mouths, and also to do a little bit of profit. And that's life. And if people don't agree with it, they have to work for GNO and period. So transparency with the vision and with the goal. Talk about money easily and don't hide anything. And keep the passion. I know that when you sell toilet paper, it's harder than when you work in the outdoors. But for us in the outdoors, being passionate, being the consumer of our products, and being the value ourselves of the company is a big add value for all your staff.
Yeah.
Because they will follow you because you trust deeply into the project.
Brilliant. Great. Thank you very much, Julien. It's really been a pleasure talking to you, and I'm actually really sorry that it's gone so quickly, because I had so many more questions that we didn't cover, but maybe we'll have another opportunity in a few years. But thank you very much, and I think you and the whole team are doing an amazing job, so keep up the great work, and yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dad. And I'm sure we'll see each other later for another interview.
Absolutely. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I did. We love to read your feedback, so please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks again for your support. See you soon, and don't forget to subscribe.